Good posture. Good evening. Welcome to the Oconee County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, May the 3rd, 2022. If you're joining us virtually, to comment during the public comment portions of the meeting, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. After a moment of silence, we're going to ask Commissioner Saxon to lead us in the pledge. Please stand. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item of business will be to approve the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda submitted.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is statements and remarks from citizens. This is for anything not on the agenda for tonight. Anyone virtually? Thank you. Any statements or remarks from commissioners?
No,
Countywide mowing started this week, so you'll see the tractors around probably for the rest of the week, and just keep your eyes open for that. Also, early voting started this week, so you got mine, so make sure you get in and get voted. Early voting run for the next 3 weeks. With that, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. This is for our regular meeting on April 5th and our agenda setting meeting on April the 26th.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
The motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Our next item will be the recognition of May as Keep America Beautiful Month in Oconee County. So, if you don't mind reading that for us.
Mr. Chairman, I'm honored to read this proclamation for the Great American Cleanup 2022 proclamation. The Great American Cleanup is the country's largest community improvement program that kicks off in more than 20,000 communities each spring. This national program engages more than 1.5 million volunteers and participants who take action in their communities every year to create positive change and lasting impact. Whereas Keep America Beautiful is the nation's iconic community improvement nonprofit organization that envisions a country in which every community is a clean, green, and beautiful place to live, and has established the Great American Cleanup as its signature national effort for involving American citizens in improving their community environment. And whereas the Keep America Beautiful Great American Cleanup is the nation's largest, engaging more than 1.5 million volunteers every year to create these changes. Whereas Oconee County seeks to protect its natural resources and bring people together to transform public spaces into beautiful places. And whereas Oconee County recognizes its commitment to engage citizens, civic and government officials, and business leaders to work together to end littering, improve recycling, and beautifying America's communities. And whereas the Keep Oconee County Beautiful Commission and the Board of Commissioners of Oconee County are committed to elevating the importance of volunteerism and motivating everyone in our community to become stewards of the environment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Oconee County does hereby proclaim the month of May as Keep America Beautiful Month in Oconee County, and calls upon our citizens to join in activities that promote responsible environmental stewardship and help us renew our commitment to building a better world today and for future generations. So declared this day, May the 3rd, 2022, signed by John Daniel, Chairman, Oconee County Board of Commissioners. Come out front.
Proclamation, in recognition of Law Enforcement Appreciation Week, May 11th through
17/2022. Reads as, whereas Oconee County law enforcement officials and public safety officers are brave and dedicated individuals, who protect our citizens, families, and our communities here in Oconee County. And whereas these men and women serve on the front lines of public safety are prepared to face uncertainty and danger for the sake of protecting their neighbors. And whereas Oconee County's law enforcement officials and public safety officers face intense challenges and make profound sacrifices to ensure that safety of all citizens play a critical role in keeping us safe and putting themselves at risk during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas Oconee County's law enforcement officials and public safety officers face intense challenges and make profound sacrifices to ensure that safety of all citizens play a critical role. Whereas law enforcement officials face increased scrutiny yet continue to perform their duties with dignity and honor. And whereas Oconee County continues to train and develop the best law enforcement officers and public safety officials, and because of their hard work and devotion, Oconee County remains a safe and welcome county in which to live, work, and play. And whereas the service of the Oconee County Sheriff and his dedicated team helps to maintain the well-being of our county, these individuals provide invaluable service and should be recognized for their commitment and bravery. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Oconee County Board of Commissioners does hereby recognize the Oconee County Sheriff's Office and encourages all residents to join in recognition and appreciation of the outstanding service provided by our sheriff, his deputies, and staff to our community. Furthermore, the Oconee County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the week of May 11th through 17th, 2022 as Law Enforcement Week in Oconee County. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the county to be affixed this the 3rd day of May in the year of our Lord 2022, signed John Daniel, Chairman.
All right, now we'll move into our hearing and actions on zoning matters. Our first item is rezone P 22-0030. This is James Mark Childers. AG to AR, this is 4.62 acres at 1211 and 1191 Dove Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, this is P 22-0030, James Mark Childers, owner, applicant. This is parcels A 01016 and 016A. These are the aerials of the current parcel configuration. They're currently zoned AG in the country estates character area. And again, the request is a rezone from AG to AR to create two 2+ acre lots. You have within your packets the concept plan that shows the 2.6 and slightly over 2 acre lot that's proposed. And these are the architectural images that are presented with the application. And staff recommends conditional approval with the one condition, and Planning Commission also recommends approval with the same condition.
Now we'll hear from the owner or the agent of the owner.
I'm Chris Cagle. I'm representing James Mark Childers. As applicant, I live at 1243 Dove Creek Road. Intentions here are really just to increase 1191, as you mentioned, from a 1 acre, a little over 1 acre lot, add a mobile home on it to a 2 acre lot to build something more consistent with my home, my brother's home, and the surrounding homes. That's all.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak for this rezone? Anyone virtually? Does anyone wish to speak against the rezone? Anyone virtually? With that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion of the rezone and open up to any questions from commissioners. We'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve rezone P 22-0030, James Mark Childers, AG to AR, more or less 4.62 acres at 1211 and 1191 Dove Creek Road residential with one condition.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve rezone request P 22-0030 with one condition. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next item of a rezone number P 22-0035. This is Pan Pacific Fairway. This is R3 MPD to R3 MPD with modifications to rezone number 6730. This is 202.66 acres, Georgia Club Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, this is P 22-0035 Pan Pacific Fairways. This is located in the western part of the county along the Barrow border. Now, these are the parcels that are subject to the request. And it's currently zoned R3 in the suburban neighborhood character area. And again, the applicant is proposing to modify rezone number 6730 with changes to housing types and to the concept plan. You have in your packets the two concept plans that were, this is the 6730 that was approved. This is the proposed. You'll notice a slight change with a minus a few lots in this area, an increase in open space, and then the townhomes in this location replacing some of the single family lots. Again, there's no increase in the number of units as previously approved, just differences in the lot configuration. These are the previously approved and these are the proposed. And these are the architectural images that were submitted, single family detached and townhomes. And staff recommends approval with our standard 3 conditions, and then we kept the same conditions that were approved from 6730. And so those are in your packets as well. And the Planning Commission recommended approval with subject to the same conditions. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from the owner or the agent of the owner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Bob Smith with Smith Planning Group, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight representing Pan Pacific Fairway 5 LLC, also known as the Georgia Club. And Keith Anderson, the Director of Construction, is also here with me tonight. Over the past 5 or 6 years, I've had the privilege of working with the owners and leadership of the Georgia Club. Most of the development has occurred in Barrow County, with some development occurring in Oconee County. Now it has become apparent that the master plan must be revised in order to respond to market conditions and really, quite simply, to make the plan better. The subject tract consists of 202 acres on the southernmost portion of the Georgia Club, having frontage along Barber Creek Road. The primary reasons for the rezone modification is to, number one, modify the design to enhance the public realm, which actually increases the quality and quantity of open spaces available for both passive and active recreation, and to provide a greater range of housing types available to the residents of the Georgia Club. Currently, the only type of housing available in this area of the Georgia Club is the single-family detached house, even though the area is within walking distance to amenities such as the soon-to-be constructed resort-style pool and fitness center, pickleball courts, multi-use trails, and of course, the golf course. As we all know, sometimes it's necessary to downsize as you age. All too often, this requires moving out of the neighborhood and away from the friends that you come to know and love simply because there aren't housing options available within the neighborhood. As the residents of the Georgia Club age, many of them would like to stay and have the option of downsizing without requiring them to move out of the Georgia Club. And if you think about it, the only comparable option that they have in Oconee County is to move to the various age-restricted retirement communities or to the continuing care retirement communities that are in the county. It's also important to note that the proposed plan is completely density neutral from the current plan. In other words, the total number of lots remains unchanged. We're not asking for a density increase, simply a change in housing type. The plan before you tonight includes a total of 158 single-family detached lots, of various sizes at 19 fee simple townhomes. And finally, the plan does nothing to modify the high construction standards and design standards which the Georgia Club is known for. And I'd like to review just the plan changes very quickly, if I may. Could you go to the two plans so we can compare? There we go. So the plan on your left is what is currently approved. And as Guy pointed out, there are some modifications here. We've increased the size of the open space, as you can see. We removed some lots here along the roundabout. And we made these lots a bit shallower so they don't go all the way down to the creek along this this parkway type street. But the primary change is here. You'll notice in here, these streets are parallel and there's a long median separating the streets. And then there's an alley along the outside. And so from Barber Creek Road, you're looking at the back of these homes, you're looking at the alley. And in here, facing the lake is again the alley and garages. And in the lake, I doubt if anybody in here has ever actually been to this lake, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So we would like to make that lake more of a public amenity to the residents of Georgia Club. And so they wouldn't be forced to look into the garages along this side. So over here, what you see is really this plan turned inside out. The street parallels Barber Creek Road and it circles around and then fronts the actual lake. So this area becomes more of a public amenity, like I said. And then this is a double loaded alley along the back of all of these units. The townhomes are here, all facing the lake, creating a very stately type environment back there. So really that's the change in a nutshell. And we are in agreement and accept the conditions the planning staff has recommended, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak for this rezone? Anyone virtually? Does anyone wish to speak against? Anyone virtually? With that, we'll go ahead and close public comments and open up to any questions from commissioners.
Mr. Smith, could I get one clarification or for Guy? At the planning commission, there was some public input and they were concerned about runoff or downstream. Was
Right.
that addressed? Did we?
It was addressed directly after the meeting. There was a misunderstanding as to where they lived in relation to Georgia Club.
Okay,
All of this drainage goes to the east,
okay.
right? They all live to the west, right? So they actually lived uphill from the Georgia Club. So we got it all worked out.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? We'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve rezone P 22-0035 Pan Pacific Fairway B LLC R3 MPD to R3 MPD with modification to rezone number 6730 plus or minus 202.66 acres, Georgia Club Drive residential with the same 12 conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve rezone request P 22-0035 with 12 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next item is special use number P 22-0033. This is 1973 Hog Mountain Road LLC and Hog Mountain Investments LLC. These are self-storage units, 2.60 acres at 1971 and 1975 Hog Mountain Road. There's also a adjacent variance that goes with this, variance number P 22-0034.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, special use P 22-0033 and special exception variance P 22-0034. It's located along Hog Mountain Road, just to the east of Butler's Crossing. This is the aerial of the a portion of sorry, a portion of B 06007 and then B 06007 B. It's currently zoned B2 in the Civic Center character area. Again, the applicant is requesting for special use for the self-storage facility. This request is then accompanied by the special exception variance to reduce the required incompatible use buffer from 50 feet to 25 feet along the rear property line. This is the concept plan that you have in your application packets. This is zoomed in. The new building proposed on this lot with access to Hog Mountain through this portion of an existing lot. You'll notice the proposed buffer in the rear. These are the architectural images that were submitted with the application. And staff recommends approval with our standard 3 conditions. Number 4 is the architectural style of the proposed building shall match the existing commercial building at 1971 Hog Mountain Road as depicted in architectural images number 2 and 3 submitted in the narrative. That would be number 2 and number 3. And the Planning Commission recommends approval subject to staff recommendations. Oh, I'm sorry. And then the variance application does meet all of the necessary conditions to grant the special exception variance with the 1 condition, our standard condition, and the number 2, 2 staggered rows of large evergreen plantings, arborvitae, leland, cypress, or equivalent substitution shall be planted within the proposed 25-foot incompatible use buffer. Said evergreen shall be 10 feet tall at the time of planting and shall be planted at a spacing of 10 feet on center. Thank you.
Frank Pittman.
Frank Pittman, I live at 1400 Saxon Road. I'm here tonight representing the property owner who is not here tonight. And he apologizes, but he made a commitment. He coaches his little boys T-ball team, and it's the last game of the season, so he probably wouldn't be able to go home if he came to this. So hopefully I can handle it for him. But as Guy mentioned, this property, if y'all remember back, we came to y'all last year trying to. The property owner has owned this property for a number of years. It's on B2 with no conditions on it today. Over the years, he's tried to figure out what seems to work over there. There was a time where he had plans drawn up for a pretty large size office building. Parking was an issue with that. And then, the office complex by Publix got going again, and buildings got built there. So it really didn't make sense. He wanted to do this, outdoor kind of food entertainment thing last year, which the neighbors didn't like. You guys didn't like it. So kind of went back to the drawing board. And we tried to listen to what we heard last year of the things that people didn't like in the community. And the things we heard were traffic, noise, lights, security, the way the project looked, and parking there at the complex. And so my client owns a handful of storage facilities all over the state now. And it seemed like a good fit for this property because it doesn't produce traffic. There really is no noise. It's all inside loaded, climate controlled facility. There won't be a lot of lights, cars coming and going. It'll obviously be secure. It's going to look like an office building. And we're actually, if you look at the site plan, we're actually adding more parking to the facility that could be used by the other tenants there in that complex. What we're proposing is a 3-story building that would be a brick building, look like an office building. The existing B2 zoning allows 55 feet, which you can go about 5 stories with that. So we don't want to do anything like that. We want to do 3 stories so it fits what's around it. It does fit into the character area of Civic Center. The staff and the Planning Commission have recommended approval, and we ask for you guys' approval tonight as well. And then on the variance, so I want to back up and give you a little history, which I think most of y'all know. When my client bought this property, it was on B2. The adjacent property was on OIP. There is no required buffer between B2 and OIP. So when he bought the property, there was no buffer requirement there. A couple years down the road, after he bought it, the adjacent property owner downzoned their property from OIP to residential, which automatically kicked my client into having to install a 50-foot buffer on his property because now he's adjacent to residential. That's pretty difficult to do on this piece of property because it's not very deep. There are 2 stormwater ponds on the property today. There's a water line and a sewer line that go through the property. And it just makes it difficult to have to do that. And it makes it difficult to compete with adjacent B2 properties that are already built that don't have a buffer. So we would ask, we tried to come up with a plan that worked to try to do as much as we could. What we've asked for is a reduction to 25 feet, which would be in keeping with what we look like an office building. If we were office and OIP, we would be required 25 feet adjacent to residential. So that's what we're requesting to be able to follow. We are good with all conditions that staff has put on for the variance and the special use. And I'm here to answer any questions and ask for you guys' approval tonight.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak for the rezone? Or excuse me, special use? Anyone virtually? Anyone for the special, the variance? For? Anyone virtually? Does anyone wish to speak against either the special use or the variance? Anyone virtually? Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and close the public comments and open up to questions from commissioners.
I have a
Okay.
couple. Mr. Pittman, the question came up about the hours of operation. Did that could you clarify that? Is it a 24-hour access?
Well, so I don't know that he necessarily, I think he's open to limiting that if that's something you guys wanted. I mean, the way these things usually function is there is an attendant, an office on staff during regular business hours, and then people usually have a key fob or something like that they can let themselves in after hours, just like any other office building. I think my client is open to limiting that if that, that's something that you guys wanted to see where you wouldn't be able to get in the building at all at night. But unlike old traditional storage, it's not people driving around through there. I mean, you come in the front door, just like an office building, and you'd be inside of a building. So there wouldn't be any noise or anything like that at night. But to answer your question, I mean, he's open to limiting that if that's something y'all wanted to.
So since all the units are interior, as you say interior, there's no pulling up to the side and unloading.
They pull up to the front.
Front.
So there's a little parking area in the front, which is just off the back of where the existing office building is. And so everything would come in the front, correct? And you go in, you get on the elevator and go up.
So the only restriction to the access is at the building.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
they
sir.
anybody could pull into the parking lot.
They could, and we didn't want to restrict that with a gate because one of the things we heard last year was people wanted to see more parking for the existing businesses. And so we created some parking. We don't want to turn right around and gate that off. But I mean, we can, if you wanted to restrict access at night, all you'd have to do is set the computer where the key fobs don't open the door at night, if that's something you guys want.
Well,
I think you'd be open.
I mean,
to
that wasn't my intent. I'm just getting some clarification
Yeah.
since that question was asked. And this may be a question of Mr. Herring in discussion of this parcel before. The conditions that we have require some improvements to the ingress and egress at Hog Mount Road, or will they have to make any improvements?
That'll be addressed during the development phase, right? And so our condition does allow us to do that
Okay,
if
because I know
if it's
that-
warranted.
okay. So they'll have to address that and
Yes.
signage as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, on the residential portion that's behind them, didn't we reduce their buffer as well on that side or not?
We did on the other end. but it was, we had a variance. Let's see if I can see it on here. Let's write this out. We had a variance for this area. The R1 would have had to have provided a buffer in this location because they came in after the fact, after the B1 was already there. And they had issues with soils and environmental health approval. So that was a variance that was required at that time.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Pittman, how many units are going to be in it? How many units?
They have not done the unit mix yet. Right now, it's just short of 100,000 square feet. You know, they would get one of these companies that does unit mix design. They hadn't gotten that
I
far.
got you. Is it my understanding that the entire back's going, is it gonna have windows on the back, or is it just gonna be a brick wall?
It could have windows on the back.
It could still.
To look like an office building. Yeah.
I'm just asking this.
I mean, what would probably happen if they had windows on the back, they would probably be fake windows because you wouldn't have a hall on the back wall. You want a hall to be double loaded through there. So the back of the building would be back of units. And if you could have fake glass, you know, that was tinted or something to make it look like an office building that actually wouldn't have light or anything coming through it
Right.
from the inside.
I figured y'all might just put a brick or some fake stuff because, I mean, it's not even, I mean, it'll be seen very, very slightly from the other side over there. Plus,
Yeah,
you know, you ain't got windows, kids won't break them.
well, that's true. That's true. And you know, and the height wise, it really won't be much different than the existing office building, even though it's only 2 stories. I mean, those are higher ceilings. You got a parapet on the top. I mean, it's probably 30 feet tall already. So it won't be much different than that. And then with this landscaping that they've recommended, and that stuff will stuff very tall real fast. So
Any other questions? We'll entertain a motion for the special use.
I make a motion to approve special use P 220033 1973 Hog Mountain Road, LLC, and Hog Mountain Investments LLC self-storage units plus or minus 2.6 acres, 1971 and 1975 Hog Mountain Road commercial with the 4 conditions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve special use P 22-0033 with 4 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Now we entertain a motion for the variance.
I make a motion to approve variance P 22-0034 with the 2 conditions.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second to approve variance request P 22-0034. This is to reduce the 50-foot incompatible land use buffer to 25 feet, and it has 2 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor of the variance?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move to variance request number P 22-0042. This is Kevin and Katie Anderson. This is reduce the side yard setback for an accessory building greater than 144 square feet. Is 0.48 acres at 1091 Old Farm Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, P 22-0042, located on Old Farm Road, parcel B04B021G. It's currently zoned AR in the suburban neighborhood character area, and the property owner again is requesting a reduction in the side setback from 15 feet to 5 feet for the proposed detached garage. You have the concept plan in your packets, and these are the architectural images submitted as well. And staff recommends approval with 2 conditions. And again, the side yard setback shall be reduced to 5 feet only in the area of encroachment of the proposed garage.
Now we'll hear from the owner.
Katie Anderson, owner or co-owner with Kevin at 1091 Old Farm Road. So we're here just to ask for the setback of our side yard to the right, looking from the roadway to be reduced from 15 to 5 feet. Due to the size of our yard only being 0.48 acres, every single foot counts. We have gotten with environmental, and also they gave us a tiny square exactly where we would like the proposed building to be put. So that they were okay with us building right there, just beyond our driveway. So other than that, just the purpose is to have vehicle storage, and we also have 5 kids. So any extra space we can spread our wings a little bit will benefit me mentally and just be helpful all around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak for this variance? Anyone virtually? Does anyone wish to speak against? Anyone virtually? With that, we'll go ahead and close the public comments and open up to any questions from commissioners. We'll entertain a motion.
I do have one question,
Okay.
just to make sure I understand, with this previous, rezone we had last month. Ms. Anderson, did you have an opportunity to visit with any of your neighbors about this?
Yes, sir. I have a copy of 5 surrounding both the left side, the right side, and 3 houses. So 5 households that completely surround us, and I have that in the paperwork.
Okay, thank you.
And they were all okay with it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other questions, I'll be glad to make a motion to approve variance number P22-0042 for Kevin and Katie Anderson to reduce their side yard setback for an accessory building that's greater than 144 square feet at more or less 0.48 acres located at 1091 Old Farm Road Residential with the 2 conditions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve variance number P22-0042 with 2 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next item is variance request P22-0065. This is Robert and Jenna Lennell to reduce the rear side yard setback for accessory building greater than 144 square feet, 1.02 acres. This is at 3531 Madison Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, P22-0065, Robert Linnell, owner. This is the aerial of the subject parcel, C05C021. Currently zoned AR in Country Estates character area. And again, the request is reduce this rear setback from 40 feet to 5 feet and side setback from 15 to 5 feet. This is the concept plan that's in your application. These are the architectural images that were submitted with the application. Staff recommends approval with the one condition: the rear and side yard setback shall be reduced to 5 feet only in the areas of encroachment of the existing shed. Thank you.
And we'll hear from the owner.
Good evening, thank you. I'm Rob Lionel, 3531 Madison. I'm really making the variance request for 2 reasons. One is to maximize the property, much like the woman before me. And the second is that if we place it anywhere else on the property, it would require quite a bit of tree removal. And we have a lot of great trees that we'd like to keep, so we think it's in an ideal location.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak for this variance? Anyone virtually? Does anyone wish to speak against? Anyone virtually? With that, we'll go ahead and close public comments, open up to any questions from commissioners. We'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve variance P22-0065, Robert and Jenna Lionel to reduce the rear and sides yard setback for an accessory building greater than 144 square feet, plus or minus 1.02 acres, 3531 Madison Avenue with the one condition.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve variance request P22-0065 with one condition. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. With that, we'll move into our presentation of the FY23 budget.
Thank you very much. I am here to present the FY23 proposed budget for Oconee County. briefly that the budget we're proposing to you this evening supports the mission statement of the county to provide quality services in a fiscally responsible manner, promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of all Oconee County citizens. It is also designed to support the strategic goals set forth by the county. It is a balanced budget. We'll start with the general fund. So the proposed budget, $37,894,885. That is an increase of 3.15% over prior year, just at 1.1 million. Two key reasons for this increase are local option sales tax. We are showing an increase due to new developments in the community and also just increases that we've seen over the past year in local taxes. And also anticipated increase in property values. Federal listing as the right-hand side of the screen, indicating the sources of the revenues for the general fund budget. Property taxes making up 53.8% of the revenue sources, local option sales tax 23.1%, other taxes 10.9%, and then additional revenue sources, including service charges, rents, sales, investment income, grants. You also have a display of how we recommend those revenues be used by department. Our largest use of those revenues is contributed to law enforcement, jail, and E911, 25.6%. If you include public safety, there's another portion of public safety in the chart, and the judicial services as well. That's close to 40% general fund overall towards public safety. Public works, 18.1%. And you can see the other distributions, parks and recreation, administrative, joint governmental programs. We have an alternate view for you of the proposed expenditures of the general fund, showing these by classification, giving you a little bit more insight as to how they will be used. Personnel and benefits represent approximately 50% of the general fund proposed budget. That is an increase over prior year, with that being related to changes in pay charts and attempts to attract and retain quality employees for the county. Operations and maintenance, 28.5% of the general fund total budget. Those are the two largest components. We also have some capital outlay components, allocations to other agencies, debt, and support to other funds. Our total proposed budget includes other funds in addition to the general fund. So you'll see capital fund, SPOS, special revenues, and enterprise funds. The total proposed budget, $65,880,198, which is almost flat to prior year with a decrease of 0.13%. And so again, these proposed expenditures are broken down for you on the right-hand side by department. Water resources, expending 24.8% of the total budget. Law enforcement, jail, E911 at 16.7%, and public works at 14.8%. Those are some of the larger items that make up most of the portion of the budgeted expenditures. So to give you a little bit more detail, capital fund purchases. This fund houses vehicle replacement programs, equipment programs for information technology, parks and rec, fleet maintenance, road departments. This is what we have budgeted in our capital fund for FY23. County facilities, vehicle replacement program, core switch and virtual machine host for IT, and equipment for parks and rec. We do have other capital items budgeted in other funds as well. So here you see the enterprise fund also has a vehicle maintenance program with our water resources department, and we are recommending a civic center sign upgrade. It also includes our SPOS funds. 2015 SPOS, we've received final collections for, and these are the remaining line items on that referendum that we wish to expend in FY23. And we are currently in our SPOS 2021 fund, which we would like to continue our debt obligations, use for paving, farmland protection, county facility improvements, law enforcement vehicles, and fire rescue vehicles and equipment. So as I mentioned, our budget is designed to meet these strategic goals of the county. And so these are 4 of our key strategic goals that we are looking to execute. So I'd like to give you some slides that will help demonstrate how our budget plans to do this in FY23. Commitment to public safety. We talked about it being almost 40% of the general fund budget, 20.4% of the total budget. You can see the different components of the public safety. Law enforcement, jail, E911 also includes fire, EMS, animal services, and emergency management. So you see the dark blue colors are the operational components, and the darker purple colors are the capital components of that budget. The second strategic goal is transportation maintenance and improvements. We have 14.8% of our total budget budgeted to public works. Of that, we have 4.9 million budgeted to paving. So it's just over 50%. Water and sewer infrastructure, 24.8% of the total budget. We have operations. We looked at the capital, which is the vehicle replacements. There's also an infrastructure component, which is also capital. And that's renewal and expansion of our current infrastructure and also planning for future infrastructure. And finally, the commitment to the phase replacement program. These are all of the vehicles that are included in the budget and their funding source. Law enforcement coming from SPOS, fire from SPOS and special revenue, senior center from special revenue, fleet from our capital fund, and water resources from the enterprise fund. And finally, we'll have our first public hearing May 24th, and our second public hearing with adoption on June the 7th. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have this evening or any questions that you have up until that final point of adoption. Thank you.
I got just a couple things to say, and then we'll open up to any questions y'all might have on it. Just want to mention that in our budgeting for elections, we have in the budget for just the standard election cycle. If there are additional runoffs, we'll have to make an adjustment to those mid-year for budget amendments to get us through the second half of the year. Life cycle management on our IT infrastructure, that's up a little bit over last year just because of the cost of the hardware that we're experiencing now. We also have a software upgrade for the tax commissioner. This is a one-time expense that will be reduced back next year after that's completion. She mentioned 700,000 in facilities capital. Also, our juvenile courts, hopefully next month, or at the end of this month, we'll have an IGA with Athens Clarke County on a cost sharing measure for our juvenile court judges' salaries. So we found a good equitable way to split that, and both counties are very happy with it. So we expect no problem getting it approved with Athens Clarke County as well. We also increased our culvert and bridge maintenance by 50,000. Life cycle management for traffic signals will be our first time starting that. It's 100,000 a year to try to keep those replacements of the heads and hardware that goes along with that. We had some increases in solid waste as well. Some of that had to do with, or most of it has to do with the hauling fees. Not only is our volume up, but as you know, fuel prices are up, and then tipping fees at landfills are also up. The budget anticipates using only the real growth in digest. So once we get the final digest, we'll we'll know for sure. But right now, we anticipate not having to have a tax increase hearings for this fiscal year. And that's because of this board's commitment over to have the right number of people doing doing the right things. Also, the commitment to the strategic plan and to our comp plan, I believe. This also wouldn't be possible without our employees' patience, our elected officials, and dedication and hard work they put in over the last 6 years as we've been trying to right size the government and push ourselves to spend only what we need to spend. So this allows a huge investment in our employees for this fiscal year, probably one of the biggest ones we've been able to do. So thank y'all for your support in the last 6 years as we gotten to this point. So it's a really big deal to be able to do the stuff that we're accomplishing and also not having to exercise any additional tax burden on the taxpayers. So thank y'all for that. With that, we'll open up to any questions you might have.
I've got a few, and I'll be real brief. I've got a broken tooth. I would like to ask, I'm trying to hang on the best I can. In your opinion, the ratio percentage between property tax and sales tax, is that, are we like a normal look, or how would you judge us?
To me, it's normal. From what I've seen in other counties, it's not far from normal. I'd say they're very close. And I look at SPOS and local option sales tax together and property taxes. And those are the largest, they're very equal, and they're the two largest components of our revenue, which is what I have seen. And it varies depending on the county and the area. But I feel like Oconee County sales tax is very strong.
I probably should have prefaced it by saying those counties that have sales tax.
Well, and we do have the extras, the SPOS adds an additional 1%. So that, I mean, that doubles our sales taxes.
I'll interject to that too. In the public administration world, I mean, property taxes are the more stable typically of the two. But sales tax has the benefit of people outside the county funding services inside the county. And so from the ratio now, I would call us at a healthy mix. And then this board has shown the ability and the desire to make adjustments as necessary as they make sense. But our mix is now, I'd like to push more on the sales tax side again, because I'm happy to have people outside paying for people inside. And I think that's sort of the direction of this current budget. But from the ratio currently, it's on the healthy side.
Okay. The second one, can you just highlight, so folks would know, I can't remember, it seemed like it's a little over $1 million for debt service, where that's going?
Right. So we have debt service for coming out from SPOS, and that is for the Oconee Veterans Park construction. That's the initial debt that's still being paid down. We also have a new debt that's being paid from our new SPOS referendum, and that is to bond our administrative services facility. And we also have infrastructure debt at Water Resources that's paid for plant expansions. And over the years, that some of that has been refunded. Most of that has been refunded for interest rate savings, but the debt continues. We have recently paid off. There's also the economic development for Caterpillar. So we paid off a component of the Caterpillar debt from a refinance. So we're continuing to pay on the Caterpillar, and we've got the upcoming debt for the Costco bond as well. That's also included in the FY23 budget.
Okay, and the last one is this may be tough off the top of the head, but the uncommitted balance, fund balance.
Yes, our target is 30% of unassigned fund balance. We anticipate that to be approximately $9 to $10 million. And we're working carefully to make sure that we identify any other fund balances and what assignments those would be placed with. So we've got a listing of assigned items that kind of tie back to the total fund balance.
We'll have that ready for the May 24th public hearing. So you'll be able to see our estimated fund balance, what's designated, what's not I think, as well. And we also we got one more thing to put on the fee schedule. So as soon as we get that, we'll shoot it out to y'all and also post it on the website. So just a little fine tuning there.
We'll post the presentation on the website for you as well.
Any other questions?
Not, no, you got some? Mine's just a comment. You know, I want to thank the staff for all they've done, all the way down to the lowest staff member, because it takes everybody to make this happen for every year. It's very smooth. I mean, we're blessed to have the staff we have to bring it to us so we can go through all of it, and the material is, you know, well received when it comes in the format that it's easy to figure all out. That's for sure. 'Cause not all of us besides Amory are money guys. But I just want to thank you for everything you do.
I'd also like to echo that too. You know, I think everybody in the last few years have been working mighty hard to, you know, achieve the goals and the strategic plan that we all came up with, you know, back in 2017, I guess. So I appreciate that as well. And the one question that I have is, with the Costco coming online, are we projecting any revenues in the current budget from that?
In the FY23 budget, we did project $500,000 in additional local option sales tax revenues. And we took into account that they won't be open as of July 1 at the start of our fiscal year, that they would open later on during the year. So we did take a conservative approach at putting that number in. And so there could be a possibility that there might be in a budget amendment mid-year, end of year, to true that number up to our actual receipts.
And that money showing going right back out for that debt payment. So it's kind of a wash through. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Melissa, thank you so much in your new role here to get
Thank you.
put in at a opportune time with budget. And I hope Wes is having fun wherever he is. But I do appreciate that. We're very blessed with a great professional staff. This question more probably directed to the chairman or to Justin. I forgot to ask. Last year, we had some efficiency studies done that was in the budget. Have we got any coming up this next fiscal year that we have plans for as far as staff efficiency studies?
We got two fixing to start. And they'll go into next year. One is guy's office planning, code enforcement, and the other will be fleet maintenance. It'll start and they'll kind of roll into the next fiscal year.
Okay. And I very important we do that because we find that it helps us with our planning for staffing.
We've had real positive feedback from everybody who's been through it. Nobody's come in screaming, trying to kill me or anything. So I think it makes you take a different look at your processes and how you flow. So it's been very successful, I believe.
Okay. Well, I just want to encourage that we continue to do that.
Oh yeah, we're a big fan. You know, I mean, I say this somewhat tongue in cheek, but government's eternal, and sometimes eternal processes go with it. So it's always good to take fresh looks at things. And I'm not so smart. You know, I know that there's plenty of better ways to do things than the way I am. And so having somebody coming in has been really beneficial to the organization.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next time is discuss and consider the Cold Springs Road closure. Kind of how I think we'll do this. I got a few comments based on some of the stuff we received. I'll throw out a proposal on how I think we need to move forward. I know we have some people here tonight that would like to speak on that. We'll let them speak and then open it up if y'all have any questions, or we'll kind of see how it rolls. So as you remember, Cold Springs Road between Snows Mill and State Route 53 closed on September 16th, 2020. A 30-day public comment period about the permanent closure ended on Saturday, the 4/30. Based on this engagement from our citizens, permanent closure of this roadway should not be pursued. As noted in our earlier public meetings, though, the intersection of Cold Springs and State Route 53 is problematic. we should seek an effective and long-term correction of the intersection, and this solution will involve partnerships with Department of Transportation, Georgia Department of Transportation, and possible federal funding as a component of that as well. The process for this is not fast, so the solution will take some time to come up with. My recommendation is that we begin the conversation with the Department of Transportation on this partnership, and we keep the temporary closure in place with a more effective and aesthetically pleasing temporary closure method other than the barrels and the barricades that we have across there now. So that's kind of my thoughts of where we need to head. With that, we'll open. If anybody in the audience would like to speak on Cold Springs Road, this is your opportunity.
I think most of y'all know me. I'm Barton Carter, 2531 Snows Mill Road. Ever since we started talking about this, safety concerns. That's all I hear. Let's talk about safety concerns. In this last 13 months, there's been 8 wrecks at Lane Creek and Snows Mill. Since the closure of Cold Springs, there's been 2 less wrecks. So let's talk about safety concerns. Are we going to start talking about closing down Lane Creek now? You've created 8 more wrecks at that location. And I'd also, of course, you kind of over what my next statement was, what happens to the land when it was closed, but you're saying, let's keep it closed while we're talking to the DOT. The citizens have requested that road be stayed open. So I say the road ought to stay open while you're working on the DOT, seeing how y'all going to redo the road. And if the road's going to be closed, it needs to be closed to everybody. I don't have nothing wrong with Mr. Townley, but he's still using a portion of that road. He has an entrance off Snows Mill that he can get to his office. If the road's going to be closed, it needs to be closed to everybody. And also, and I don't know if y'all have had any, I can't get any records on it. How many wrecks have been caused from coming from Clotfelter and not from Cold Springs? You know, I don't have any statistics, but I would say most of them probably come from Clotfelter, not from Cold Springs. And the next thing I want to ask is, and I hope he's going to be truthful with me, because I've got a confidential source on this. Did the chairman make a phone call to Mr. Townley and ask him what his recommendations, what he thought about the road being closed?
That is totally false.
Well, I disagree with you.
Well,
From my
so you're not
information.
asking a question, you're making an accusation. And you're welcome to believe whatever you want to believe. But I'm telling you, I didn't.
Okay.
You want to check I'll give you my phone. So you want to check my phone record. You got the date? I'll give it to you.
I ain't gonna check your phone. I mean,
Well, you just said you didn't agree with what I said.
well, I
And
don't
know
agree with what you said.
confidential source. I mean, it's okay that we disagree
Okay.
all day long. I'll take that all day long. When you start making accusations, that's problematic to me.
Well, I'm just saying what I heard, I have someone that heard the phone call. I told him I would not say his name up here. He don't need to be brought into it.
Well, it sounds like he does.
Well,
If he's going around saying stuff like that, he certainly needs to be in the conversation.
he didn't want to be in the
Exactly.
conversation.
That's exactly right. He sent you up here.
He didn't send me. Nobody sent me up here.
Well, sent you here with information that is not correct.
I came on my own accord because I think the road needs to be left open.
I understand that. And I respect your opinion. And even the wrecks you're talking about there at Snows Mill and Lane Creek. Now, I don't know that you can say that all 8 wrecks are created because of Cold Springs being closed. I don't know how many occurred before the closure. So I don't know.
This is the past 13 months.
Right. But how many before that? 13 months before the thing had been closed.
Well, I live there and I know they want.
Well, I agree. In my perception of things, I think there have been more accidents at Lane Creek and Snows Mill since the closure. Now, whether that's related or not, but I've been to all 3 or 4 of them that occurred in the last year. So as part of that, we're taking a look at that intersection along with Stowe's Mill at Lane Creek at Morris Ford, even Snow's Mill at Cold Springs. We're also going to take a look at Union Church and New High Shoals Road, Astondale and Collin Ferry. We're going out to bid with a design consultant to look at all 5 of those intersections and come back with safety improvements and even try to rank them as the importance of getting them done.
All right, but all
So-
those roads are gonna stay open while you're doing that. Correct?
Yes.
So why can't Cold Springs stay open while you're doing that?
Cold Springs was closed because we're working on 2 intersections right now that took higher priority than Cold Springs at State Route 53. And that's Snow's Mill at 53 and also Ray's Church at 53. And you can agree or disagree that those 2 are more important to get fixed than not. We were getting a lot of concern. When you look at the number of people who communicated that they wanted this road closed, most of them were communicating with us prior to the closure. We were getting calls from parents. There were a few accidents right there at the beginning of school. We were looking at this based on the skew, the angle, all that stuff. We could close that section off and reduce the number of accidents was the theory.
All right, we've had public input and over 60% want the road to stay open. So why can't we open that road back up while
that's
we're
gonna-
talking to the DOT?
That's a possibility. I'm telling you what I think. I'm giving these guys my recommendation. Now we're going to talk about it when you get done and we'll see what happens.
All right, and if you do leave it closed, is it gonna be closed to everybody?
We'll come up with a closure plan.
I mean, well, a closure plan. I mean, there's Mr. Townley's still using a portion of that road. If it's gonna be closed, it should be closed to everybody. Don't you agree?
I don't know what I'm confused to what the big deal is for him just to pull in his parking lot. I mean, we've got it closed right past his parking lot. The rest of it's closed off all the way over to 53. I'm confused as why it's such a big deal for him to pull into his parking lot off
He
Cold
has
Springs.
another interest.
I get that, but I'm still confused at why it's such a big deal for him to use 20 feet of it to pull into his driveway.
Because if the road's gonna be closed, it needs to be closed to everybody. It needs to be closed from the beginning to the end,
What-
not a portion of it left open. I don't have nothing wrong with Tony. If I lived up there, if I owned the property, I'd probably take advantage of it too if you let me. But it's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to be close to everybody.
Well, once again, we'll discuss that. I mean, figure out a way to make that happen or figure out what we think is the best way to do that. You know, it just seems to me it's just not a big deal for that little piece.
It's
little
not a big
piece to
deal
be
to
open.
you. But I guarantee you, if you ask most of the people who wants that road to be open, they've got a big deal with him being able to use a portion of it.
Yeah, listen, I will be honest with you and tell you that it seems like everybody seems to think Tony Townley has an influence over this committee. I mean, over this board and what we've decided. I haven't talked to Tony about this situation whatsoever, and I'm sure the other commissioners tell you the same thing. Tony has no input on what we're doing with this road,
Well,
period.
and just like I just said, if I own that property that Tony owns and I could use a portion of that road, I would probably use it as long as I could get away with it. But it's still not the right thing to do. The right thing to do, if it's going to be closed, it needs to be closed to everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name's Dan Dawson. I live at the end of Lane Creek Road where it dead ends into Cold Springs, which is one of the dangerous intersections in the county. And you have increased the traffic tenfold on that little Lane Creek coming through there. Now, I moved over there 50 years ago this past month. I've seen the rock quarry come in over there on 186. I've seen Lane Creek Golf Course come. I've seen Lane Creek subdivision come. The Family Life Facility over there on the edge of High Shoals. All of that traffic at one time or another came down Cold Springs and Lane Creek, especially ones from Walton or Barry County that had either worked at those facilities or had family over there. And I guess most of you know I do a little farming still there and have a you pick deal where people come pick some vegetables. Last year, I got phone calls in September. Your road closed. We don't know how to get there. And I lost a small amount of business, not a great, but some. But I've been there long enough to know that closing that road, I'm for safety too, but there's ways to do it. Turning lanes, acceleration lanes, deceleration lanes up there at that intersection would mean a lot. But for 49 years, I used that road, that section daily out of the 50. And the reason I didn't use it 50, y'all closed it.
Thank you.
And I want it open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't read with them on, can't see far away without them. That going. Ladies, gentlemen, thank y'all for letting us have this venue to actually talk. My name's Vance Dawson, and I am Dan's second son. Probably in my own mind, the best looking, but we'll just leave that right there. Listen, I'm not here to question your character and integrity, any of you. Okay, if anything, I know some of you, and I've known some of you a long time. If anything, I would say that you have exemplary character and integrity. I think we have a perception problem. One of the ways that I get around perception problems in my business is data. I am a numbers guy. And the reason I'm a numbers guy is the number two is always the number two. The only time number two doesn't become number two is when us humans put it in a formula. Then it can become something else. Numbers don't embellish. Unfortunately, people do. My personal opinion on this road closure, the first thing I remember seeing was a sign saying that it was going to close. I think that's where a lot of people got their feathers ruffled, because it felt like something was being done without their input. Well, they paid taxes to support this road for many, many, many years. They didn't see the reasons behind it. There were no public hearing. We had an online thing. I think it's important to utilize all the tools that we have available, but we need to make sure that we aren't excluding somebody. There are people in my family that have never sent a text message or email. All right. They rely on other forms of communication, the newspaper. There's still a big deal in my family. I do think that there's some alternative plans that we can look at. I know that you, that was actually the first I heard of it. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. And I appreciate the data you shared with me about the accidents at those two intersections. Knowing that there's going to be some work done at Snow's Mill and 53. Personally, I think that section of road needs to stay open to help alleviate that while that work is being done. Now, do I believe that it should be squared up? Yeah, I think that would take a lot of the safety concerns out of it. And it's right beside a big high school. I mean, the kids have got to be, I mean, times have changed. There's a lot of things that have changed from when I was driving at 16 and now. One thing that happened is the mind of a 16-year-old, you know. So we've got to do our best to take care of the kids. We owe it to them. I'd say as much, if not more, than what we owe the taxpayers for funding and supporting that road. One of the things that my dad did allude to is the increased traffic. Now, my understanding is that Cold Springs is weighted to a heavier road, 100-foot right of way. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to spew anything. Same thing for Snow's Mill. Lane Creek, where a lot of the traffic has been diverted, is rated to a lower weight and an 80-foot right of way. Okay, so these are things that were unintended consequences of closing this road. How much did it add to it? I don't know. But
there are certainly things that we can do to alleviate that. There's always going to be a reaction to an action. I don't know where, there again, this goes to data. I don't know where to find, if it's available. It's something that Mr. Daniel, I offered up my time, personal time at no cost. I understand that there are certain regulations that DOT, the government has to follow, and that's fine. I think that's great. I was saying that my company is doing well. I'm basically semi-retired, and I'd be willing to offer some of my time to help with a pure data statistical analysis. Where the numbers fall is where they fall, you know? But where's the breakdown of the people for and against this? You explained some of that earlier. I would like to see some data on our safest intersections to our most dangerous intersections. Because here's the deal, you're never going to please all the people. Never. And some of us are just going to be crazy right to the very end. All right. But what the data does, it allows you to get rid of every opportunity for a negative perception. And I say I'm basing this negative perception not just on what I hearing from other people, and some tonight is, I mean, Tony Townley even wrote an article in the Oconee Enterprise. He's aware of the perception. Tony's a smart guy. You know, he's aware of the perception. And if anything that we're able to do to help set that aside, reasonable people, I believe in my heart of hearts, like to see the truth. They like to see things come true. They like to see people's character and integrity shine through. One thing I learned the hard way, and I'm going to leave you with this, because I'm a stubborn person. It took me a long time to grow up. There's a couple things about character and integrity. Number one, you either have it or you don't, and you do not get to decide when to use it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.
I'm Coleman Hood. I live at 1351 Overlook Ridge Road. Every time that I have asked Chairman Daniel, both publicly and privately, why he wants to close the end of Cold Springs Road, he has consistently said that it is out of concern for public safety. I'm not opposed to public safety. We all support public safety. But this is not an unsafe intersection. The facts, the county's own records, do not support this position. The intersection is very busy at times, but in the 13 months prior to its closing, there were a total of 5 accidents, and none of them during school hours. That is 1 accident every 79 days. That is hardly a remarkable number. There are many intersections in the county that are more dangerous than this, but the commission is giving no thought to closing them. I submitted an open records request for comments submitted by the public to the commission's website. There were 113 comments. I reviewed every one of them. 67 are in favor of keeping the road open. 46 favored closing the road, but a dozen or so of the 46 said that they would be okay with keeping it open if the commission would fix the intersection, put in a traffic signal, build a roundabout, or rebuild the intersection to square up the lanes. These were the public comments submitted to y'all. 60% of the respondents, almost 2 out of 3, want the road kept open. But here's the really notable thing. Virtually everyone that lives on the Cold Springs side of the intersection wants Cold Springs Road open. Virtually everyone living on the Clotfelter side of the intersection wants Cold Springs Road closed. Those on the Clotfelter side of the argument say that it is much safer for their teenage drivers to turn left onto Highway 53 with Cold Springs closed, even though none of the 5 previously cited accidents involved teenage drivers during school hours. They almost always stated that having Cold Springs Road closed was a minor inconvenience compared to the issue of public safety. Let's put that shoe on the other foot. Let's open the Cold Springs side of the intersection and close the Clotfelter side and see how minor an inconvenience they think that is. Let's see how much easier it is for Cold Springs drivers to turn left onto Highway 53 with Clotfelter closed. If those parents are truly concerned about their children's commute to school, have them take Highway 78 at Clotfelter, turn right on Linrood Road, turn right on Malcolm Bridge Road, and turn right onto Rocky Branch Road. This route is 3.8 miles long and involves no left turns. The Clotfelter route is 4 miles long, involves sitting in line to turn left onto Highway 53, takes students through the Rocky Branch Elementary School zone, and then requires another left-hand turn against oncoming traffic on Highway 53 to get onto Rocky Branch Road. There is a safer option. Building county roads is the commission's responsibility, and it is the commission's responsibility to see that those roads are safe and maintained. It is not the commission's job to pit neighbor against neighbor by arbitrarily closing a road that is in fact safe. But if the commission thinks that safety at this intersection could be enhanced by rebuilding it, then do that. The commission should not keep our road closed while the DOT acts. There are people in this room that won't be alive when that gets resolved. We've suffered long enough. Please open our road. Thank you.
Just one point of clarification now. Does anybody else like to speak? Okay. So in reference to the comment about only 5 accidents, none being during school hours. The charts that I showed you, the information came from the same open records request that Mr. Hood submitted. And there were 6 accidents, 5 of those involving dispatch of emergency services for medical or fire department. One at 8:06 a.m., one at 7:49 a.m., one at 7:17 a.m., 2 of them in the afternoon, one at 14:03 in the afternoon, and then 2 after school hours and after rush hour traffic, one at 6 and one at 7. So with that, I'll open up to any discussion we want to have amongst ourselves at this point. Public comments are closed.
I have some comments, but I'll defer to my elders.
I would say with we're moving pretty quickly in terms of state and federal funding for the 2 roundabouts at Snows Mill and also at Ray's Church Road. And we've got commitments from the state that they can move funding around as soon as we can get the engineering complete on that. So a lot of those will move quicker than the original schedule. I mean, it's still going to take time to get it done. This is a couple-year process for no doubt. A lot of the other options that have been mentioned can take 12 to 18 months as well. Since we are dealing with a state route, there are certain things they're going to request prior to making any dramatic changes to the intersection. So.
Well, I'd like to make comments, Mr. Chairman. I may have to make some notes. So I'll make sure I cover all my thoughts. And I appreciate everyone being here tonight that expressed a comment. It's very important. Not having the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to know all the facts that led to the original decision to temporarily close Cold Springs. I do appreciate you encouraging the citizen input in this matter with the online submission of comments. I too, Mr. Hood, read all of those comments as well. And it makes it clear that the closure has been certainly a disruption to our citizens that live on the Cold Spring side of 53. And I understand the concern that this intersection that Cold Springs has with 53. It makes it difficult for people to see traffic coming from Watkinsville on 53 because of the angle. I also understand, Mr. Chairman, the facts that wrecks and injuries have been reduced, but not eliminated. I suspect, now this is not, a professional engineer speaking here, but I just suspect that the wrecks probably occurred not because of somebody blowing through a stop sign, but perhaps someone who wants to risk saving a few moments and pull out into an oncoming traffic. Now, as commissioners, we can never stop that. No matter how many stop signs you put up there, rumble strips, roundabouts, you're not going to stop all the accidents. I'm not in favor of a permanent closure of the Cold Springs Road. What I am in favor of is a solution rather than a closure. And tonight, I just asked my fellow commissioners to consider other options. Again, as I said, I'm not a traffic engineer or by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that it's been mentioned tonight, especially by Mr. Hood, that we should realign Cold Springs Road to allow for a 90-degree intersection with 53. When you're retired, you have time to think up just crazy things. Another option that we could consider is a right in and a right out off of Cold Springs Road, off of onto 53. Now, this would allow traffic from people who are traveling from Highway 78 to avoid the Rocky Branch Snows Mill intersection. Plus, it would allow those people who are taking their kids to school from Lane Creek and Snows Mill to avoid the Rocky Branch Snows Mill intersection. So you take a right in off of 53 on Cold Springs, or Cold Springs or right on to 53. The third crazy option I thought about was convert this section of Cold Springs Road to one way from Highway 53 to Cold Springs Road to Snows Mill Road. That would alleviate part of the problem. Of course, the last option is just to reopen Cold Springs Road without any improvements, and that's not acceptable. Mr. Chairman, you mentioned about the participation with the DOT. I think maybe Coleman had mentioned the fact that some of us in this room would not be alive when that is done with the way that sometime waiting on a roundabout. I know we have two planned in that vicinity with Ray's Church Road and Snows Mill Road. You might speak to the timelines on the roundabout with Snows Mill Road and Rocky Branch. But I'm inclined to ask, I think we have some very smart staff members, professional staff members, and I'd like for them to bring back to us for our consideration at our next meeting to find ways to immediately reopen Cold Springs Road with the idea to have an intersection that would increase the safety of our motorists. It's not been mentioned tonight, but don't forget, my understanding that Clotfelter Bridge, the bridge will close Clotfelter for up to 2 years. Is that correct? When they start
It's
that?
18 to 24 months once they
And
shut
when
it
are
down.
they supposed to start that?
I believe that's 24.
It's not until 24.
Yeah.
All right, so we're still talking about a long ways. For some of us, that's, that's a long time. But I know that our responsibility is to provide safe intersection. So I'd like for us to move towards a much quicker improvement than waiting on DOT to come back with roundabout. I think a roundabout would be fine, but it's gonna take too long. So, but that's just some of my rambling thoughts. I would like for us to be able to leave here tonight with an understanding of the importance that this has to all the citizens, especially those that are impacted by it on a daily basis. Thank you.
Well, all that's going to require, this is a state route intersection. So it's going to require DOT looking at the intersection internally to come up with any suggestions on any change of alignment or right in, right out. We can definitely approach them at the district level and ask them to come take a look and offer suggestions on what they would feel comfortable doing with that intersection and how long it would take them to
What do you think?
mobilize.
They could give us some inclination in the next, by our next regular meeting in June.
I would be surprised if it would be done that quickly.
Well,
We can ask them and they will get the process going. We can give you an update at our next meeting and every time we meet about where we are in the process and what they're telling us as far as timeline. But that's, in my mind, part of the reason it was attractive to shut the road because of the time constraints to do anything. Because in my mind, that is the intersection is problematic. And
so the DOT would have a say in if we wanted it to make it a right in or right out.
yes, sir.
And they would also have a say if we wanted to make it one way.
Yes, at the intersection to the state route, they control within their right of way, which goes partial way in our road. We'd have to submit engineered plans showing how that would work. They would have to review those and approve them based on their standards.
Now, of the crazy ideas I had, including the smart ideas to fix the intersection, the realignment of it. One of the concerns I have is the money that it would cost to make these improvements. If we're going to eventually end up with a roundabout there, we need to make sure that whatever money we spend is not, that goes toward, eventual roundabout. So that's also a concern we need to make.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem with the short-term options that are available.
But
So if you're going to do the right in, right out, I think we sent out something that our engineers are saying that you're probably going to have concrete work done there. You're probably going to have some kind of median put in, which is probably going to cause lane expansion. So you're still talking $200,000 to $250,000 just to correct that intersection there. If you go to realignment, you're going to go through just as much time, and we're going to spend probably as much as we spend on engineering for an entire roundabout. If we engage a consultant, and there's steps we have to go through with that, and anticipating that the state is probably going to use federal dollars. So that process is a little longer than what we normally do. We have to go through that. They would come in and do a study on the intersection. They may say traffic light, they may say roundabout will work better. Based on my experience in dealing with traffic counts and warrants, and traffic lights are hard to get. I mean, we're just now getting one at State Route 53 in Union Church after all these years of requesting it. And we're just barely hitting the numbers that we need to hit to even try to make that work.
Well, not one of my options was not a signal.
Yes. I'm just saying that's one of the things they'll come in.
Yeah.
The consultant we hire as part of the process for DOT, they have to look at the intersection. They'll come out and do traffic counts. They'll watch movements.
Yeah.
And they'll do an analysis in their model to show, will a roundabout work here? Do we need four-way stop? Whatever the options might be for the state route. They'll have to test every one of those and come back and say, here's how we think you need to proceed. And Department of Transportation will then have to approve that moving forward.
Okay. But what I would like to not leave tonight, I would like to leave tonight with an understanding that we're not going to permanently close Cold Springs Road and that we're certainly not going to abandon the road. And that we move as quickly as DOT can move to get this thing fixed. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, when's the last day of school?
May
Around
something.
May
May
22nd.
something.
Yeah, I think graduation's the 23rd, so it'd be 21st, 22nd in there.
What Mr. Harden said, I'm not in favor of closing it forever. I'd like to find a solution. I don't know that we can get a solution tonight outside of opening it up. I would not be in favor of opening it up during school. But if there was a way to move our contacts that could help us. And I will say this, we may do a fix if we were allowed to. It's not going to go to a roundabout. It would be cost of doing business. But to look at what we could do in a short term, whether it's right in, right out, or some other option that they might have to give us to get us down the road to what I'd like to see is a roundabout, to be honest with you. So that, if there's a way to talk with DOT, maybe with some, with the goal going toward a roundabout, if that's what, I like them. They certainly slow traffic. And if there's an accident, it's slow impact. But if there's something they can agree or allow us to do, certainly I would hope they can help us too, get over the hump, just to get it. It didn't take long to fix. I would look at something in that arena. I certainly don't see them allowing a traffic light. I don't even think that would be, I know you use that as an example. I never would think that. And I will say this too, just for the record, the sheriff's in there. I don't want any of our employees out there in that road directing traffic. I would fight that tooth and nail unless the sheriff said somebody had to be out there during that time. That's the whole reason we're trying to go roundabouts over around the schools, is to get them out of the road. So I won't say that before I finish up. But anyway, that's just I wouldn't open it while school. I think if we could talk to them about some type of over the hump issue, unless they can come in with some fix real quick.
I'm probably the only one in this room that lives on Clough the Road, right? So I'm very familiar with it. 15 to 20 trips a week sometimes, taking a left or taking a right out of Clough the Road. I would like to see some signage, some quick stuff done for signage, and open the road back up. I think that the problem, I had two young boys that drove that route every day to school for 8 years. So I am very familiar with discussions I had with them about the traffic. And I think that sometimes, like Mr. Harden said, that people get kind of anxious to get somewhere quicker and they pull out. Still happens all the time. People pull out in front of other people. That's the problem there. I'm not sure it's the Cold Springs side that's the problem. People just pull out trying to get somewhere quicker than they should be. But I would like to see us put some signage up. I don't know what kind of signs we can put up. I don't even know if we can put signage up there. We can put them on our roads, obviously. We can also look at putting flashing lights up on both sides on 53. I would think that GDOT would have no problem with that. I don't know that they would or not. You'd have to tell me that. But there's flashing lights at the schools to slow traffic down. This is pretty close to the schools. Why can't we have flashing lights to slow down that morning traffic right there since it's so close to the schools. But like I said, I travel that road on a daily basis, left and right, out, no problem. You know, I'm more patient, I guess, in old age than some of the young folks are. So, and back in the day, my wife had a wreck at that intersection back a long time ago. So we're familiar with a wreck at that intersection as well. My mother had a wreck at that intersection. But once again, and I'm a split household too. So I want the road open back up. I think that we need to address it. I want to thank the 100+ citizens who responded to us. I want to thank the gentleman who spoke tonight. The thing about it is that we put a Band-Aid on it and really hadn't addressed it. I think we probably let that sore fester a little longer than we probably should have. But I'm for opening it back up. I want to address it first with some signage if we can. And yes, I agree that we should never put an officer out there and wait till after school's over this year to address it, and we can address it properly. But I just think that we ought to evaluate it that way first. And here's a question for you. Cold Springs Road, can we put signage up that prevents them from that makes them yield to all other traffic before they go? Because people complain about that road more than Clotfelter and 53. So can we sign it to make them yield for everybody? The traffic's got to be clear before they can go. I mean, is that a possibility? I mean, it's a signage versus spending lots of money for a fix that we don't know that we can fix for years.
What the problem, like they're talking about, is behavior more than the signage.
Yeah, I agree. The
with
behavior
it's
kinks.
skewed off. So when somebody's turning, you've been there, you're turning left, you got somebody turning left off Cold Springs Road. There's the hesitations and who's supposed to go first, who's got the right of way.
You got to yield in a roundabout too before traffic is flowing already. It's the same thing, same process. That road needs to yield for everybody else before they go.
Well, it's the number of maneuvers. So it's the conflict points.
But there's
The
been
number
more,
of
but the
movers.
complaint is about the misdirection of the road. If we make that road yield to all other traffic, which has been a majority of the complaints, that the road is unaligned and it's causing a problem. If we make them yield to all, just like a roundabout, because once you get in the roundabout, everybody has to yield to you. So why can't we put a yield sign up there that makes them yield to 53 both ways? Got to be clear, and so is Clotfelter before they can go.
Could I interject? What you're saying, Mark, is basically restricting a left-hand turn during certain hours of the day.
No, I'm not, it has nothing about hours. It's just that at the moment that there's congestion at that road, why can't they yield to all other traffic before they go?
Like I said, it still comes down to the behavior, and all the deputies are directing traffic during
You think
school.
that's logical?
He can't sit there. I don't know.
But so does a roundabout, but yet you still have to yield for oncoming traffic that's in a roundabout. Is that not true?
Same thing at Ray's Church in 53. Somebody comes off of Ray's Church, comes up to that intersection, wants to turn right. They have the right of way over the person coming off Knocker Bridge, wants to turn left.
Now, you understand, I'm just asking the question because I want to see it open back up too, but I don't think we want to spend a lot of money on it, and it's going to take years to make it happen. So I'm trying to figure out a fix for it versus just keeping it closed until we get it fixed in years to come. And, I got a bridge being built, so my whole, that's going to become my intersection for 2 years.
Sure. Well, and what I would say to that is the fact that I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I don't have a problem with the road being open. I look at it on the enforcement side of it, and I can't enforce something that's not there. Just put the sign up, doesn't change the law. Not necessarily, especially on the state route.
I understand. So, and what about flashing lights to slow traffic down at the intersection? Is that something we couldn't look at?
In my conversations with GDOT in the past, they have not wanted to put up the flashing lights.
Okay.
It's something we can go back and ask again. What I'm hearing is we probably need to get Public Works to contact the district, ask for any options for intermediate improvements to the intersection while we investigate a permanent solution there. That kind of what you're saying there?
Get that in the next 30 days.
I don't know, but we can start the process.
If I could frame my marching orders to push down what I'm hearing, and tell me where I'm off base. There's no desire to permanently close the road. The road's going to remain county road. We want to seek a long-term solution for the intersection, 53 and Cool Springs. And so what I'm hearing also is that what can we do on the interim to do something much quicker than what is the permanent long-term solution? What would GDOT let us do? Anywhere from signage, which just based on my experiences, there's probably other ways to do it. But there's some minor intersections. So I think what I could do is Public Works Director, and I will make contact with the GDOT district and talk to the very specific issue of what can we do from a temporary basis. The commission is looking for some options there. And then I think going forward, just kind of what our time frame is, but we'll try to have something back for you at the next agenda setting meeting, which I believe is May.
Good.
You mind if I make a comment?
Go right ahead.
Everybody else in here has. I will say that, I've been here in this county all my life, and I've witnessed some horrendous accidents all throughout the whole county. One of them was the college students that was on Highway 15. I was the first person there. I was standing in our restaurant's parking lot, heard it happen, went down to see if there was anything I could do. And to witness that was, I just can't put it in words. I also witnessed at this intersection that we're talking about a horrendous wreck. And it was when a tractor trailer and one of the students had a collision. And our responders, medical, fire, our sheriff's department, everybody responded to that and put their lives at risk to save that kid's life. And I saw that happen. And that was a big deal. And so I think, the consensus of everybody should be that whatever we do, we don't want to have those type situations happen again. And I lived on Acock Road for over 30 years. And it was a dirt road when I moved there. So were several of the others right there in that whole section. When I was in high school, I actually saw what stupidity could have, that happened right there. We were coming back from a football game, and I was in middle school, and somebody cut off onto Cold Springs because it was an easy way to, come down 53 and make that turn very easily. It was dirt at that time. And they were trying to beat the bus traffic as we were coming back. And the parents had to stop in order to let that, there's some words I'd like to use for that driver too. It was just ridiculous that he made that whole loop to come back into 53 to bypass the bus and the parents' traffic. So you can't fix stupid. And that's one of the best examples. And so as far as this intersection, I would not allow my kids to go through it because there was a deputy, if they were going to school, they would go to that intersection at where the deputy was located, and the deputy would help move them through. And to me, that was a safe alternative for us. And I still, if my kids were living there today, I would not allow them to go into that intersection, especially turn left. Now, if you turn right, it's a different story.
but to turn left, it's a problem. And so, you can say all you want to about the data. I've witnessed it. I've seen it. So it can be a problem. But I agree with the consensus. I'd like to see it fixed in some kind of form or fashion and to move forward with that. And, we're not experts, we've got our law enforcement people here, the sheriff, and they can apply the law, but we cannot engineer a solution tonight. It's not possible. So whatever it takes in the interim, if we're going to open this up, I don't want to see another kid die or another adult die at this intersection. So whatever we do, let's just keep that in mind.
Very good. Thank you. You're good. Okay. Does any commissioner wish any item to be removed from consent agenda? We'll entertain a motion then.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. We do not have need an executive session, so Commissioner Saxon,
Motion adjourned.
Second.
we are adjourned.